What's up? Today we got Victorious Season 1, Episode 1, The Pilot. Okay. So, yeah. Today I'll be starting my second look at a Nickelodeon show for the year. Today, last year I did the Thurmans. And then this year I also did Thurmans Undercover. And if you want to see more of that, I'll still do that. But I want to get through Victorious first before I look at any other show. Or go back to any other show. So, yeah. Victorious isn't that long of a show. Season 1 only has like 19 episodes. And then the rest only have 12 to 13. So this show might be the shortest show I've ever looked at. Because usually Thundermans had like 20 to 26 episodes. But Victoria in the final season of the Thundermans original series had like 30 episodes. But with Victoria's final season only having 12, this show might be the shortest show I've ever chosen to review. But I will do it. So yeah, welcome to the reviews of Victorious. I'm excited to look back on this show. It's my kind of second dance show I've chosen to look at. The first one was Zoe 101, which of course I didn't end up going through all the way through. But of course, I will with Victorious because Victorious isn't that long of a series. It's only 19 episodes this season, but for the remaining 2 to 4 seasons, 13 to 12 episodes. So it'll be a very short look through, which I did not expect that. I thought the show would be longer. I kind of forgot that this show was short. But anyway, this episode starts. So we got the pilot with this episode starting off with the main character Tori Vega, and Ian, who is a one-off character who only appears in this episode and then is never seen again. Okay, so Ian doing a science class project. Kind of interesting for a pilot. Thunderman's pilot started off with them having dinner. This pilot starts off and the Zoe 101 pilot started off with her going to school. This episode starts off with the main character doing a science fair project for her school that she's currently attending, which is called Sherman Oaks High School. I think that's what it's called. And so Tori says, let's see, the bread mold. And then Ian types bread mold. He says bread mold into his pear pad. And Tori says it's furry. And then he's like, furry. And she's like, mushy. And she's like, mush. And he's like, mushy. Kind of funny that all his thing of this project is just typing things into a pear pad, to a pear computer. Which, I guess in the Victorious Nightcrawler universe, pear things are just their equivalent of Apple. She says, now time for the fish mold. And Ian types in fish mold. And Tori says, stinky. Then that's when Trina, played by the iconic Danielle Monet, who is currently getting her own Victorious show soon, called Hollywood Arts. I'm excited to watch that. I'm excited to watch that show. I'm excited to watch Hollywood Arts because it's about Trina Vega being a teacher like years after the series is wrapped up. And I'm excited to see, because Danielle Monet is a good actress. Compared with, I say, to Trina being untalented, even though she thinks she is talented, Danielle Monet is actually talented and can do a good job. So Trina says, I am so upset. And then, you won't believe who they who she got partnered up with the big showcase. Andrew Harris, a 10th grader, which, that's not his name. His name is Andre. She just calls him Andrew because even if you take out the W in his name, it still spells Andre. I checked this. If you take his name, she calls him Andrew. But if you literally take out the double in his name, it still spells Andre, which is his name. So how could you get him? How could Trina get his name wrong? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Ian says, "What's the big showcase?" And Tori literally has to tell him that it's a big thing going on at Trina's school. That they, it's a performance they put on at Trina's school every year. And Trina grabs Ian by the arm, saying they invite agents and directors and production and producers and a lot of super powerful people in the show business. And I'm extremely important to me, which is why I'm very upset. And goodbye. And then we never see him again. She literally kicks Ian out of the house, and then we never hear of him again. Kind of funny that the poor this actor. He was all like literally. He's only in this scene for about like a few minutes before being out of the show altogether. They could have brought him back. He looked like a good actor. They could have brought him back. Like then Tori decides to stand up for Ian. Ian being kicked out of the house by saying that hey, they were supposed hey, he and I were supposed to have a science project due tomorrow. I have to turn my mole bush. Tori says no. Andrew is coming, which against Andre, but she's called him Andrew. And you gotta help us figure out what we're gonna do for the big showcase. I definitely want to sing. Ah! Yeah, she sings terribly. That's the whole joke of the show with Trina, is that she sings terrible. She sings off key, but she thinks that she's a really good singer. And Trina says, "How was that?" And Tori says, "Loud." And Trina says, "Awesome." Then they get a doorbell ring. And oh, that's him. And then she tells Tori to stay like she's a dog. She's like, "Stay, Tori. Sit." It's like she's not. Like, she doesn't say sit, but it's like she's not a dog. A lot of people tell Tori. She says, "Come on in, Tori." That's Andrew. And Andrew says, "Andre." It's like, yeah. How could you say that name wrong? Tori says, "Hey." And Andrew says, "You go to Hollywood Arts too?" It's kind of weird. Why would he ask her that? If she went to your school, Andre, you'd know. You would see her walking around. Like Tori and Andre and the other students become become the friend group of the show. So he would obviously would have seen her around. The fact that he says you go to Hollywood Arts too obviously means that he doesn't remember her or something. Of course, Tori says no, just Trina. Yeah, literally, Tori says no. Oh no, I'm not a performer. Just her sister, just my sister. And then Trina says, "Yep, I got all the talent, and she got all the strong teeth." You know, she's never had one cavity. And Tori says, "I try not to brag about it." Andre says, "Oh, nice piano." Andre does a piano performance, and Tori says, "Wow, you're fantastic." And Trina says, "He's okay." Okay, Trina, you are literally you saying he's okay. It's just like saying. Then Andre sniffs Tori's hand, and Tori says, "Fishbowl," and he's like, like, okay. Then we get a weird thing with the show where then we get a transition scene where Tori texts what's going on, where we see Tori doing a twit flash texting saying 5J's helping Trina and Andre are hurt. Trina's driving me insane. Meanwhile, outside the Vega house, Andre's on the phone saying, "No, Grandma, there's no way you can drown yourself at school. Look, I'll call you later." Tori says, "Your grandma's coming to the big showcase?" And Andre says, "Yeah. It's the first time she's left the house in 6 years." Tori says, "Why?" And Andre says, "Because the woman's afraid of everything. People, umbrellas, rabbi, bikinis, breakfast food." Tori says, "So if she saw a rabbi eating a bikini ordering pancakes," Andre says, she bursts into flames. And it's kind of funny that Andre's actor is now an Emmy-winning and a Grammy-winning artist. Leon Thomas III has become an Emmy-winning artist, or three. I think I think he became a three-time Emmy Award winner. I don't kind of forget, but it's kind of funny that he became a three-time Emmy Award winner. That's really happened. Trina says, "Guys, come on." Tori says, "That's rehearsal." Andre, let's go. Well, Andre says, "Let's go." I almost say Tori saying, "Andre, let's go," but no, Andre says, "Let's go." It's kind of funny that I almost said that, but so Andre wait, so Trina in a dress. So yeah, so Trina in a blue dress says, "What do you think? Fabulous, right?" And Tori says, "If you really want to wear that dress to rehearse, just to rehearse." And Trina says, "You got to be the part, feel the part. If you want to be the part." And Tori says, I thought we talked about you not tying my nose anymore." For some reason, it says boat, even though I thought I'd put your nose." Trina says, "Okay, you got the comedy stuff down, so let's start with my song." Andre says, "By your song, I'm guessing you mean the song I wrote." Trina says, "No one cares who wrote it. Now let's take it from When I Make It Shine." Andre plays and Trina says, "When I Make It Shine." Again, Victoria Justice sings the song way better. She literally sings the main theme song, and which is this song that Trina is starting to perform. And well, Andre says, "Well, do you have any aspirin?" Tori gives him pours some out of a bottle and gives him some. Then we see Tori doing another flash post saying, texting, "Ditching school, going to Trina's big showcase." Then meanwhile at the big showcase, Tori and her parents are watching, and Tori's dad looks really weird. His hair is just so grown that it literally looks so different than what his hair looks like in the later episodes. I guess even Ariana Grande's hair looks a lot different than what it does in the next episode. But still. So Tori and her parents are watching performance when Andre's grandmother scoots behind them. Tori says, "Oh hi, you're Andre's grandma." And Andre, "You must be Andre's grandmother." And Andre's grandma says, "I don't know you." Yeah, Andre's grandma is kind of crazy. She's kind of a funny part of the show. She kind of becomes a recurring character later with her deranged parts. And hides. That's when they hear an offstage screaming, and that's when Counselor Lane shows up. And shows up saying, "Are you Trina's parents?" Tori and Trina's dad, which I call Tori's dad because I didn't want to put Tori and Trina's dad. Tori and Trina's dad says yes, and Tori and Trina's mom says, Why? Counselor Lane says, "Please come with me." So they leave, and Andre's grandma looks up at them. Backstage, Trina is freaking out because her tongue is swollen. Counselor Lane says, "There she is." Trina and Tori's mom says, "Trina." And Trina and Tori's dad said, "What happened?" And Trina slowly says, "There's something wrong with her tongue." Trina says, "Oh my lord, Tori says, "Oh my lord, it's huge." And Trina says, "Don't I know that?" Again, I couldn't read that part out, so I don't know if she actually said that. Then we get the school nurse there, or a doctor. Could have been a school nurse, saying, does anyone know how this happened? And Tori says, the Chinese herb gurgle. And then Trina says, yes, that. And then they're like, what's that Chinese herb gurgle? Wait, no, Tori and Trina's dad says, wait, what are you talking about? And then Tori says, Trina found some website that shows you how to make some Chinese herb gurgle to help you sing better. And then the school nurse says, that must mean she had an allergic reaction to it. Tori's mom says, will she be okay? And the school nurse / doctor says, well, Trina's tongue is obviously engorged. Oh, it's throbbing erratically. And then Trina says, throbbing. And then Tori says, throbbing erratically. And then Trina swillingly says, it is throbbing erratically. Counselor Lane says, anyway, she'll be able to perform of course, the school nurse / doctor says, of course not. And ow, says, of course not. Says, of course not. But I've got to. The doctor says, stop talking, your tongue could burst. I gotta take you over there and massage your tongue as I leave. And Trina slowly says, massage my tongue. And then they leave. Andre says, I'm guessing my grandma came here for nothing. Counselor says, does anyone else know Trina's part? Tori says her sister does. Tori says her sister, me sister, as in her. And, oh no, I just helped her rehearse. I'm not even a student here. I couldn't go on stage. And Andre says, you know this whole thing inside out. The song, the choreography, you can do this. Come on. Tori says, And Andre says, she said she'll do it. And Tori says, no, I did not say that I would do it. And Counselor Lane says, whoa, she can't go on stage wearing that. Go get something else to wear. Tori says, I'm not going, okay? Lane says, bring her. And Andre just grabs her. There's a lot of grabbing in this episode. People just grabbing people by the arm in this episode. So Tori says, no, wait, what are you doing? So Tori tries to run away, and Andre just grabs her saying, where are you going? And he picks her up and takes her away. On stage, they just push her out of there. They just push her. This premiere is crazy. They push her out of there. They're just like, push. She tries to run away again, but then she tries to run away again. Tori says, no, wait, yeah. Yeah, they try to put her out again. Tori tries running away again, but they push her out of there. So, of course, I can't sing the whole song. So I'm just going to say, Tori sings Make It Shine, the theme song of the show, the big showcase song, and we get this cool shot of her singing the song as it ends. Tori and Trina's dad says, that was incredible. The principal says, excuse me, who are you? And Tori says, I'm Tori Vega. Who are you? And Counselor Lane says, this is Principal Eichner, our principal. Counselor Lane, you literally just said that. You didn't say his first name, so she could have obviously taken that he's your principal with him having the name Principal Eichner. Principal Eichner says, you don't go to school here. And Tori says, no, and Principal Eichner says, do you want to? And Tori says, well, should I? Andre says, yes. And Tori says, but the kids who go there are really crazy talented. And Andre says, so are you. And Tori says, but what if I'm not good enough? Andre then pushes that one guy, who we get to learn his name later, out of the way. And makes the curtain go up so they can see the audience. Andre says, hey, audience. Hey, Andre's grandma says, hi, Andre. It's kind of funny how she says, hey, Andre. Andre says, this girl / Tori doesn't know if she's good enough to go to school here. What do you people think? So the people start clapping for Tori, and Andre says, okay, is that okay? And Tori says, okay. Then we see Tori texting on the Slap mobile app saying, "My first day at Hollywood Art, epic. Her mood is freaking emoji." Then we see Tori and Trina with Trina with Trina's mouth no longer being swollen, so her tongue is now back to normal. So obviously, whatever that nurse doctor did to her obviously worked, because she obviously is back to having her regular voice. Meanwhile, Trina and Tori enter. Trina says, "See, it's just a high school." Tori says, "This is not just a high school. These kids are all artsy and creative and talented, and I'm just normal." Trina says, "It's okay. There's nothing wrong with being average. Anyway, you're not alone. I got your back." But then a random student says, Trina, Eric Paulson got his hair straightened." Trina says, "OMG," and they leave. Yeah. A bang saying that you got your sister's back, Trina, and then a bang her when you find out a random guy's hair is straightened. Good sibling, Trina. Tori says, "I'm alone." Meanwhile, we see Kat, played by the iconic Ariana Grande. Yeah, I had to mention Ariana Grande at some point. Ariana Grande is a very popular movie star and singer and Grammy Award winner. Same with Leon Thomas. So the fact I had to mention Ariana Grande, because Ariana Grande, again, is a very popular actress. She's mainly known now for doing the Wicked movies with Cynthia Erivo. But back when this show came out, she was basically, this show made she was just known for being a fan of the Wicked Broadway play, and she was also yeah. And this show kind of changed her life, as this was, again, I'm thinking this was her first TV show. Of course, she would later do Sam and Cat the year after Victorious ended in that show. Literally, it was so bad. But still, Cat is walking when Tori says, "Hey, can you tell me?" And Kat says, "Wait, you're Tori, right? You were so awesome at the big showcase." Tori says, "Oh, thanks." And Kat says, "I'm Kat." And Tori says, "Like the animal." And Kat says, "What's that supposed to mean?" Yeah, that was her catchphrase for like one season before they immediately got rid of it. Her being offended and saying, "What's that supposed to mean?" Like, why did they get rid of that? Like, it was like her catchphrase. I don't know why they got rid of it. Like, I guess over the course of the show, as Kat became more dumb and ditzy over the course of the show, they kind of course, stopped having her that's why people call Kat, this season 1 Kat, pre-lobotomy Kat, and season 2 through 4 Kat, post-lobotomy Kat, where she literally goes through attitude changes and becomes more and more dumb as the show progresses. Season 1 is pre-lobotomy Kat, where she's actually a functioning human who's actually smart. But then in the later seasons, the more the show goes on, the more dumb and ditzy she becomes. It's kind of sad that I'm gonna have to watch Kat's character progression go from an actual functioning teenager as she is here to a dumb and ditzy girl as she is in the later season. Gonna be sad to watch, but it's at the cost of reviewing the show, and I like this show. Oh, I like this episode, but still. Anyway, so Kat says, "What's that supposed to mean?" And Tori says, "No, nothing. I love Kat." And Kat says, "Me too. They're so cute." And then she just leaves. Like, she goes from being offended to being not offended, and then she just leaves. Tori says, "Hi," and Robbie says, "Hi, hello, female, yes." Tori says, "Can you tell me where Mr. Psychowitz's class I'm in?" And Rex the puppet, or Rex, says, "Down the hall, swing left on the wrong fountain, next, second door, no right." Tori says, "Thanks," and Rex says, "Whatever it takes, Cupcake." Yeah, Rex is a really weird character. He's supposed to be a puppet or a dummy character, but he talks like a human, and Robbie acts like he's a real person, and it's kind of weird, this thing that they create. Meanwhile, in Psycho's crap, Bex walks in with coffee, and Tori turns around, bumping into Beck, causing him to drop his coffee, and it lands on his shirt. Tori says, "Oh my god," and Beck says, "It's good." And Tori says, "No, here." Shirt's rubbing his coffee, and Tori says, "I think it's coming out." Beck says, "I think you're making it worse." When Tori's arch enemy, Jade, shows up and says, "Dude, why are you rubbing my boyfriend?" Of course, Tori tries to explain herself by saying, I just spilled coffee on," and then Jade just like, "Get away from him." Again, Jade is kind of the best mean character. Like, I know a lot of people hate on Jade because she's a bully and she's a villain towards Tori, but I think that kind of makes Jade the best character, is that she is a villain and that she is a terrible person. But I think that's what makes Jade a good character, is that Elizabeth Gillies just does a good job with this performance. Beck says, to Jade, "Relax," and kisses her. Mr. Psychowitz comes rushing in, saying, "Oh my lord, there's a huge fire!" And everyone starts panicking. And Mr. Psychowitz says, "You're kidding. Just wanted to get your blood pumping," which I did. Alright. Let's get started. Rumps in chair. Tori says he's our teacher, and Miss Psychowitz says, "Okay, let's introduce our new student, Tori. I'd like to thank Tori for this generous gift of $2, which I'm going to put up my newly named the potential suspension meter, or fire." I don't know if Psychowitz will get fired for this. Taking money from students, that's wrong. That'd be a firing. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a firing. Like, okay, Tori thought he was a homeless man, thought he was homeless, but he knew he wasn't. So why did he still take her money? That would be a firing. That would be a firing or a talking to. The principal would be like, "Psychowitz, you took a girl's money and you made her think you were homeless when you weren't. But even though she thought you were homeless, you still took her $2. That would be a stern talking to." I'm going to give Psychowitz the stern talking to meter. Eichner would not fire Psychowitz. He would just give him a stern talking to and tell him to give back Tori's money. Yeah. Yeah. Andre's like, "Why?" Andre's like, "Why'd you give him $2? And Tori says, "I thought he was homeless." Again, he would get a stern talking to for that. Psychowitz says, "Now we are continue our study into group improv. Tori, I presume. Tori, I assume you're familiar with improv." Tori says, "No." Psychowitz says, "Okay, crash course. Improv acting with scripts, which means that the actors must make up their own actions and dialogue as they perform the scene." Understood? Excellent. Jade, you will be captain of the first group of the day. Choose your actor. Jade says, Kat, Eli, who is for some reason a character who's just in this episode, Beck, and Tori. Psychowitz says, "Okay, give him place." Robbie says, "Home." Psychowitz says, "Home." And Rex says, "Ooh, real creative." Robbie says, "You be quiet." And Rex just slaps Robbie like, "Bro, he's not a real person. Why are they making it back like..." Psychowitz says, "We need a situation." Andre says, "Big news." And Psychowitz says, "No, but Andre, nobody wants to see big news." And Andre says, "No news." Psychowitz says, "Oh, big news. That's totally different. That's different. Oh, that's different big news." Jade tells Tori, "Why don't you go wait in the hall?" And Tori says, "Okay," and leaves. Psycho says, "At home, big news in action." So now we get the character. So Jade plays a character that says, "Hey babe, how was work?" Beck's character says, "I got fired." And Jade's character says, "It's okay. I have a great news. I'll cheer the whole family up. I went to the animal shelter and got us a dog." Which is kind of funny that Tori gets to play the dog. And Tori gets to play the dog. Tori says, yep, I'm the new family dog. Woof. Jade says, "Psychoist, will you please tell this amateur that dogs can't talk and they don't walk on two legs?" Psychoist! Psychoist says, "Oh, right. Oh, right. There's a right joke with Psychoist where Psychoist says, "Oh, so I'm sorry. I was sucking the milk out of this coconut. But it's true, Tori. You're going to have to play a dog. Be a dog." So Tori gets down on four legs saying, "Woof." Jade's character says, "Oh, look like this dog has..." And then Kat and Eli's characters just pet her. And then Jade's character says, "Oh, it looks like this dog has bugs in her fur. I've read on the internet." Tori says, "Woof." Jade says, "It's okay. I read on the internet that coffee works great for getting rid of fur bugs." Beck says, "Maybe you shouldn't." And Andre says, "Jade." So then Jade decides to pour hot coffee on Tori's head, including the ice. And then the ice falls out. And then Tori gets up and Jade's like, "What's the prop, dog?" So Tori decides to be like, "You know what? I'm done. I'm leaving the school. Bye." Okay, Jade. Okay. Would that be a potential suspension for Jade? I don't know. Would it? She would definitely get a talking to. Possibly detention. She obviously possibly got detention for this off screen because there's no way that Psychowitz would just allow Jade to disrupt his class by pouring hot coffee on his students. But this is Psychowitz we're talking about. A guy who likes to drink coconut milk. Now, likes to drink milk out of coconuts. So, I don't know what to think. Would Psychowitz allow us to have it? I think this would be either a suspension or a talk with the principal, being like, "Hey, principal, Jade was disruptive in class and poured hot coffee, black hot coffee on one of my students." So I don't know. It's in the hallway. Tori sits down on the stairs, but she gets scared by a student handstanding, and Andre says, "Well, hey, what you doing?" Tori says, "Calling my mom to tell her I want to go back to my old school." Andre says, "Why?" And Tori says, "Cause I like having black coffee in my hair." And Andre says, "I know." Andre says, "Then I'll just get you some cream and sugar. Everything will be chill." How will that help her problem, bro? She literally got poured on. How is getting her how is getting her cream and sugar help? I don't know how that would help. Tori calls her mom saying, "Hey mom, I need you to," but Andre says, "Nope." And Tori says takes Tori's phone away from her. Tori says, "Hey, give me back my mom." And Andre, I keep saying Andrew. I was saying Andre for the goodest time, but now during this part, I started calling him Andrew again. Andre says, "You're gonna quit the school on your first day because of one mean girl." Tori says, "It's not just her. It's just I don't fit in here with all this." Andre says, "Come on, this place isn't different from other school. Don't fit in here." Wait. Troy says, "Oh yeah, regular schools have improv classes with barefoot teachers, nerds with puppets, and bipolar cats." I don't know why Tori's trying to classify Cat Valentine with with bipolar disorder, or she's trying to say that Kat is bipolar. I don't know what you're trying to say here. Like, okay, Kat's quirky, but I don't think she's bipolar. I don't think they ever said that about her in the series. Maybe that's, but I don't know why Tori says this. It's such a weird line. I mean, girls who make you bark like a dog. Robbie says, you guys, and Rex says, Cyclist wants you back in class. And Robbie says, he asked me to tell them. Tori says, see, this doesn't happen at my old school. Andre says, will you guys be cool? Will you guys be cool? And Rex says, him be cool. Like, he's literally, and Robbie says, you're a demon. It kind of reminded me of Josh during Drake and Josh when he told Drake, you're a child. Kind of funny that two dance generations are referencing each other. Kat says, you guys, Cyclist really wants everyone back in class. And Rex says, you really wanted a date to the prom last year, but I guess you didn't get one, did you? Which is kind of weird that in the following season 2, or 3, I think it was season 2, or season 3, or season 2's episode Prom Wrecker, Tori decides to put on the first Hollywood Arts prom. But this episode, Rex revealed that Kat, either they had a prom before in their previous grades, but usually, again, prom isn't until the final 2 grades, so it's kind of weird that they said that Kat was denied prom last year, but then they literally go into the next season saying that never had a prom. Really weird. Kat says, tell your puppet to stop being mean to me. And Robbie says, don't call him a puppet. That's an offensive term. Tori says, yeah, that school's pretty normal. Andre says, please go back to class and tell Cyclist will be in there in a minute. Kat says, you better hurry. And Rex says, yeah. And Robbie says, I was going to say yeah. And Rex says, just keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear it. And they leave. Andre says, okay. The school's not normal. Tori says, really? And Andre says, you're not normal either. I've seen what you can do on stage. And you're fantastic. You belong at the school. Normal's boring. Andre leaves as Kat says, it's true. And Tori says, that no one's boring? Kat says, no, that no one asked me to the prom. Again, Kat, that's a very funny line. Then we see Tori text on the Slap mobile app saying going home. Her mood is wrecked. At the Vega house, Tori is Tori is watching. Tori is watching her make it shine big showcase performance when Trina says, you know, you're actually not that terrible. You're really gonna quit Hollywood Arts? Trina says, what would you think I should do? Trina says, I think you should come back. Tori says, why? And Trina says, so I won't be known as the girl with the lame sister who I think you're really good at the big showcase. Tori says, thanks, Trina. And Trina says, but I would have been better. Then we see Tori messaging on the Slap saying that she's feeling conflicted and her mood is lost. Back in Cyclist's class, Cyclist says, Tori, you're back. Have you thought about... And Tori says, yeah. Have you ever thought coming back to the window? Tori says, no. Cyclist says, think about it. Now we're going to do some alphabetical improv. What is alphabetical improv, you ask? So I answer it. When we give a letter to the first actor who speaks in a scene, we use it in the letter A as an example. Then the actor must make his first letter start with the letter, and which one goes something like, and Beck says, apples are falling out of my butt. And Cyclist says, lovely. Now, the next actor who speaks would start his line with letter in B, in the alphabet, in this case, B. So he might say, and Andre says, bring those apples so we may all enjoy the fresh fruit from Beck's butt. But Psychoid says, charming. Now who wants to lead the class? Tori says, I do. And Psychoid says, Tori, choose your actor. Andre says, Tori says, Andre, Kat, Beck, and Jade. Yeah, you. Like, literally, I love the way she says, yeah, you. Like, she literally is calling out her tormentor. So Jade kisses Beck, and Psychoid says, Jade, kiss your boyfriend on your own time. And Jade says, oh yeah, I will. In a really weird voice, like it makes her sound like a villain or something. I know she's supposed to be a bully, but I didn't think she turned full villain. Didn't think she turned full villain. Psychoid says, okay, if you start your line with the wrong letter, you're out. Robbie gives the letter. Rex says P. Psychoid says P. And Robbie says, I was going to say P. Psychoid says, okay. The scene can be about anything. When you want the first letter of the Tori action. Tori says, please take it back. Jay says, please don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me what to do. Please go take a shower. Jay says, quit telling me what to do. Beck says, relax, girls. Let's all get along. Kat says, totally. And Psycho says, Kat, you're out. You were supposed to say, you had to start with the letter S. Kat says, oh, my life's the worst. And Psycho says, here's a piece of candy. And Kat says, yeah, I love candy. And she just goes and eats it. Psycho says, all right. Andre, letter S. Andre says, something bit my toe. Tori says, a turtle bit your toe. Jade says, unbelievable that you're even here. I love that all this Jade's just calling it, roasting Tori for even coming back. X says, very mature of you to say that. Andre says, and Psycho says, come on, Andre W. Andre says, what if the turtle bite broke my toe bone? Tori says, x-rays are the only way to find out. Jade says, you should shut up. Beck says, that. I healed your toe with a magic finger. Andre says, thanks. And Psycho says, Andre, your line has start with A. Andre says, you're out. Sit down. Andre says, oh, I was just getting toe fix. Tori started with the letter A to you. Tori says, aliens. Aliens are the only people who can heal toe. My finger zapping. Jade says, by the way, she blows a raspberry at Tori, which is just like Jade. Beck's character says, correct. He is an alien. Psycho says, ooh, what a twist. Tori says, don't hurt me, please. Joe says, even though she's extremely annoying. Beck's character says, fainting because I can't breathe under there. Tori says, oh my gosh, she's fainted. Psycho says, excellent. Tori and Jade, keep the next letter, H. Tori says, hey, why don't you go jump on that cliff over there? Tori says, I think you should. Jade says, where did you even come from? Tori says, kangaroo. Jade says, those lousy animals, kangaroos, are awful and dirty. Tori says, maybe they learned it from you. Ooh, bro. Jade says, no one talks to me like that. Trying to withstand her dominance. Tori says, obviously someone should. Jade says, please run in front of a bus. Tori says, quite obnoxious of you to say that. Jade says, really? And Tori says, are you sure? Sure was. And Jade says, thanks to you. Jade says, up your nose, I see a booger. Jade says, very clever. Tori says, which you thought of it. Jade says, X marks the spot I'd like to punch. Tori says, your finger smells weird. Jade says, 0 is what you are from a scale of 1 to 10. Psycho says, Tori says, back to Psycho says, back to the letter A. Tori says, if I care what you think. Jade says, better watch yourself. Tori says, can't take it. Jade says, don't punch me. Tori says, eat your pants. Jade says, eat your own pants. Wait. Eat your pants. Wait. Psycho says, sorry, Jade. They answer what's in Jade says, I know. And of course, now Jade is out. So Psycho says, keep the scene going. Letter G. Tori says, get up, alien. Beck's character says, head feels dizzy. Tori says, I don't know, make it feel better. Beck says, jumping jack. And Tori says, kiss me. And of course, he says, let's do it. And Beck and Tori kiss. And Tori says, man, I love this school. Ending the episode. So, wow. Good first episode. I liked the way they did it. I liked that we had Jade as the main antagonist. I kind of like Jade as a character. I'm excited to see what will go in the next episode. Of course, the episode was filmed months after, so everyone, Tori will now have her regular hair, will have different hair. Kat's hair will be more straightened than curly, than the curly hair that it was in this episode. It will be more straightened. And Rex will have a smaller head, because in this episode they for some reason made his head really big, and it looked weird because it looked weird. So now the next episode will be more smaller, and Jade's voice will be different, because in this episode she sounded so weird. She did not sound like I remember her. But anyway, so yeah, that's this video. This was my first episode of Victorious. I'm really excited to go in for the rest of the series. And yeah. So next episode we got the bird scene. Tori, we got an A plot and B plot next time, with Tori having to compete. Tori having to compete in the bird, with Psychoist telling Tori that in order for her to do a play that Andre told her to do, she has to complete the bird scene. And meanwhile on that, she also has to customize her locker. Meanwhile in the B plot, Andre, Robbie, and I think Beck too, and Rex all decide to take ballet class. So just like with the Thundermans, the first episode doesn't have any A plot and B plot story, but the next episode does. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for season 1, for the Victorious season 1, episode 2, the bird scene.